Cool. And we are live. Hello, everyone. We are giving the audience a bit more time to chime in here on our live stream on Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Enjoy the nice music in the meantime, or also let us know where you're joining in from in the chats in LinkedIn or YouTube, or comment on Twitter space. We have Eric here, I think, already on YouTube. Nice to see you. Gigi, hello. Ivan from Argentina, nice. Neural network. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, we definitely have a global audience and also global representation of speakers here. Europe, Americas, North America, South America. This is Web3, right? Great to see all of you guys. Good morning, good evening, or afternoon. Cool. Yeah, let's kick it off, guys. For everyone that's joining later, this will be also recorded, so you can always find this information later on Polkadot's YouTube channel. All right. A warm and official welcome from my side to the premiere of the Decentralized Mic, a new events series for the Polkadot ecosystem and wider Web3 audience. My name is Zoe. I'm Global Head Ambassador of Polkadot and your host and moderator of this session today, where we are discussing the terms of Web3 marketing. We are joined by amazing speakers that you already see here on screen. They will be all introduced and will share their expertise today around the topic of Web3 marketing. But I would like to start to give you a bit of an overview what the Decentralized Mic actually is, because again, as I said, this is the premiere launch of this event series. And the Decentralized Mic is a new monthly events session hosted on all of these streams that you're joining from. Again, it will also be recorded, so you can always come back to this content later on. Today, we will showcase Web3 marketing, but going forward, we also want to discuss topics like ecosystem growth, business development, governance, super important, especially in Polkadot, but also technical integrations, everything around Web3 for the audience to keep you up to date what's currently hot in Polkadot. The first sessions that we start, maybe in the next 2 and 3 months, will be featured by speakers that received grants from the Decentralized Futures program. This is a program that will be introduced by our speaker, Saraya from Web3 Foundation later on. But it's overall a program that supported people, individuals, and also new teams in the Polkadot ecosystem to kickstart specific initiatives and also grow the Polkadot brand and the Polkadot growth. So all of the speakers that we have with us here today received this grant. Going forward, we also want to open up this event series for community members and people that not necessarily have received this grant. Let me introduce shortly all of the speakers, and of course, all of them get the stage to also talk, introduce themselves. But a quick overview, we have Saraya here, who's technical grant evaluator, like the person that reviewed most of these grant submissions from Web3 Foundation. We have the Distractive team. It's a marketing agency for Polkadot. The Distractive team was one of the first recipients of the Decentralized Futures grant. And we have both co-founders here, Katie and Nate, who also not only founded Distractive, but also launched the Moonbeam Network, one of a very successful parachain on Polkadot. Hey, guys. Then we have Decentralized Studio, an events agency for Flagship Events for Polkadot. We have Jörn, the CEO, and Madeline here, who is a global events producer. Both of them also expert team members from the Marcoms team and the experts in all things events for Polkadot. Airlift is also, Airlift is also represented. It's a team that focuses on Web3 growth hacking, very important for marketing in Web3. And Airlift is represented by Rashid and Chandra, both co-founders also. And I think also joining in from where are you joining today?
We're joining from India.
Okay, yeah, global representation here. Evan, most of you guys that are active in the Polkadot ecosystem might know of Evan. He's a core contributor to Polkadot's decentralized marketing and social media activities. Also, an ex-Parity Marcom's team member, and now contributing to all the marketing activities in a decentralized way, which often comes with challenges. But he's an expert with a decade of experience in digital marketing. Nice to have you, Evan. And Diogo is joining also, I think, from South America. He's a blockchain specialist and a professor for computer science. With his project, he focuses on growing Polkadot within universities. So we have a great expertise also how to not only cover the Web3 core audience, but also how we can grow Polkadot into a new audience, people that just get started into the Web3 space. All right, guys. So now when I gave you this quick introduction, I would like to hand it over to the speakers. And I know we have so much topics to share and talk about. However, I would still like to give the audience a bit of background what you guys are actually doing, but only in 2 minutes, okay? That's very challenging. Maybe you can really in this 2 minutes or 1 minute, however you want to do it, explain again what your marketing services actually do or provide for Polkadot. And very important, what kind of problem are you guys solving? I would like to start with Katie from Distractive about this question.
Oh, goody, I get to go first. So thank you for volunteering to host this, Zoe, and for everyone to join us. For folks who don't know, Distractive is serving as the core marketing contributor for Polkadot. This is actually designed to be sort of a thin coordination layer. So we're covering a number of areas, but still leaving room for teams to come in and contribute more deeply in specific verticals. So what we're currently doing right now kind of spans PR, content creation, social media, programs like this. This is one of the first programs we've been able to launch, ecosystem marketing, website management, and all sorts of things. And so some of the first projects you'll start to see come out of the work that we've been doing would be a brand new website for Polkadot, which is ready. It's just waiting for some operational things to get squared away. So we're imminently launching a new website. With that, we'll have sort of a bigger push this fall around sort of a rebirth of Polkadot, which we're very excited for. That will include elements of Polkadot 2.0 and some other things. And we also have new programs launching. So this is an instance where we want to highlight the decentralized futures participant, or I guess grantees is the better way to say it. But we'll also be highlighting other kinds of decentralized contributors.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Distractive is a major company component, very important for the Polkadot ecosystem. Thanks, Katie and Nate, to be here today with us. Let's hand it over to the events experts, Decentered, Jörn and Madeleine. Maddie, the question to you in 2 minutes. What are you guys doing and what kind of problem are you solving?
Definitely. So Decentered Studio, we produce and organize events for the Polkadot ecosystem. We really see ourselves as facilitators for the Polkadot community to bring more or less their wish list to life. So we do these through events such as Polkadot Decoded, Sub-Zero, the Polkadot Developer Conference, and really in these flagship events, we're aiming to bring together both our current community and attract new communities, whether it's from other blockchain ecosystems, also bringing new people from Web 2 into Web 3. And kind of the problems we solve with that. Can I continue, Zoe?
Please, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So first and foremost, we want to bring people together in real life, give them opportunities to collaborate, to network, but also to share ideas, right? So we can help innovate and bring Polkadot further. Additionally, though, bringing the right audience to the right events based on the community's needs and wants and kind of what content we're having at these events.
Amazing. You mentioned already target audience is something that we will discuss later on here as well. Super important topic for marketing in Web3. The Airlift team, we have Rashid and Chandra here. Rashid, from your perspective, 2 minutes or less, what are you guys solving with Web3 growth hacking for Polkadot?
Right. Thank you so much. So at Airlift, our mission is to help Polkadot projects achieve their user acquisition and engagement goals through innovative growth tools, strategies. So I would say we're the technical marketing partners of all Polkadot parachains. And what we want to do is we want to provide the technology which which integrates well with all substrate actions. There are a variety of growth hacking tools in the blockchain space, but Airlift itself is completely integrated with anything Polkadot. Be it Asset Hub, be it NFTs, minting NFTs, giving out POPs as NFTs, so on and so forth. And it allows blockchain projects to you know uh, to engage with communities and build their community from ground. With the grant, what we've built is we've built a variety of features. We've got a lot of parachains on board, and I think very soon you would be seeing a collaborative campaign amongst many different Polkadot projects to onboard new users onto Web3, as well as engage with the existing Polkadot community.
Amazing. And if you check out Airlift website, there are already very active campaigns where people can interact, do quests, and receive rewards to grow the parachain or Polkadot ecosystem. Evan, nice to have you today, I think, on the other side, because you also host a lot of moderate spaces today. I'm happy to introduce you. Please give a bit of background, what you're solving, what kind of problem you're solving with Polkadot with your marketing and social media expertise.
Yeah, so the problem that my concept is solving is kind of curating and getting the voice of the community represented in social media. So I'm building out this idea of a decentralized editorial board. So it's 7 people from around the community. They all have specialized talents, whether they're technical, they have a marketing background, they're content creators, they're very knowledgeable about the ecosystem and so on. And this group of 7 is basically curating and creating content. So the idea is that we're very in touch with the community's requests, and we're able to filter out a lot of noise and sort of elevate the most important content to be shared on Polkadot social media. And I do that alongside Distractive, as Katie mentioned. They also, they're serving as a sort of coordination layer. So I plug into Distractive and work with their great team, especially a guy named Peter. And so we work very closely on doing social media as well. And I think that was 60 seconds. So back to you, Zoe.
Yeah, it was. Thank you so much. And last but not least, Yogo, who is, this was my timer here. Sorry, I really stopped the time. Yogo, you are professor and blockchain specialist, and you want to grow Polkadot at universities. Where's this coming from, this idea?
Yeah, thank you. I'm a professor, as you said, here in Brazil, a computer science professor. And I also worked before as a technical evaluator for Web3 Foundation. So I started to teach these technologies in the university that I'm a professor there, and try to help people to learn Rust and also Polkadot SDK in a 1 semester undergraduate course. So the students can learn the technology and have a nice onboarding to the Polkadot ecosystem.
Amazing. Something very much needed. A great target audience, right? Motivated computer science students to get them into Polkadot, which also aligns nicely with PBA, right? Polkadot Blockchain Academy, but you actually advance and provide more services. I just want to comment a little bit on, thank you again, everyone, for the introductions. We already received some questions here. If we talk about inflation or market price and so on, this is a talk or a space where we talk about Web3 marketing. So we don't cover anything of these kind of other questions, and we want to keep it very constructive and educational here today to represent and showcase you guys what marketing looks like in Polkadot. As we said, all of the speakers today received grants from Web3 Foundation, from the Decentralized Futures program. And before we go into the discussion, I would like Saraya give us a bit of an introduction what the Decentralized Futures program is. It has now run for the last, I think, 6 or 8 months. And how you guys, maybe you can share some numbers and how these applications were reviewed and why these people that are sitting here today were allowed to actually get elected. Saraya, over to you.
Yeah, right. Thanks, Zoe. Yes, my name is Saraya. I'm part of the ecosystem development team over at the Web3 Foundation. We are actually 5 people. So together with David, Sebastian, Keegan, and Pete, if you know them, we kind of manage the whole Decentralized Futures program that got started in November last year. So over a period of 8 months, team were able to apply for this program that, as you already mentioned, aims to kickstart teams and initiatives to drive Polkadot success further. And so the program has 20 million US dollars and 5 million dots, as most of you guys are aware, probably. And during that time, we received actually many more applications than we anticipated. So over 250 applications were received of different categories. So a lot of technical applications, but also a lot of BD and ecosystem development kind of applications, marketing applications, which are mostly covered in this space today, and also community-focused applications. So out of all these projects, we signed around 50 so far, and currently we are in the last phase of deciding on these projects. So within the next couple of days or weeks maximum, we are gonna finalize all the decisions. And so far we have signed $29 million worth of projects. And but that, yeah, there are still some very interesting projects in the pipeline. And unfortunately, we had to also reject a lot of the projects that were interesting just because it became so competitive that we of course we have a limited budget, and we received, I believe, over 120 or is it 130 million dollars of requests. So yeah, way more than the budget. So obviously we had to reject many of them, unfortunately. But yeah, we were confident that we made sensible choices, and so we're happy to see results already. So we engage currently in evaluating the milestones that are being delivered by the teams. And the next couple of months are going to show how effective the program is going to be. And fingers crossed that it's going to be very successful.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And you guys heard it here first. If you have not received any reply and you submitted, if you have not received a reply and submitted an application, Saraya and team will get back to you very soon. Saraya, you mentioned, and here was someone asking again, $20 million and 5 million in DOT. Is there a possibility that Decentralized Futures will be continued or something else? Or because I think it was a great project. If you can comment on this, just curious.
Currently, I think the idea was really to pump a lot of funds into the market and to spread it very broad and see where how and where these initiatives are successful. And then once we have a clear picture of that, there will be discussions about this. But currently there is nothing planned or decided about the continuation of that. Also because we used most of the funds already, right? But there is always the grants program that focuses on technical projects, and they have to be open source. But yeah, if you head to grants.web3 Foundation, if you're interested, then you can apply there still.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Saraya, for the overview. We will hopefully find out also today with the expertise of all the speakers why marketing funded by the Decentralized Futures in Polkadot already works. So let's get back into the core topic, Web3 marketing. And actually, let's start very basic. What is overall the difference between Web2 marketing and Web3? most of you guys have worked in Web2 marketing companies. Katie, I would like to start with you again, because you are, I think, not the one most experienced, but one of the most experienced here with your marketing expertise. How would you describe the difference in Web3 marketing over Web2?
I mean, there's a lot of differences, but there's also many things that are the same. So the things that I tend to tell people, particularly when I'm recruiting, is really around like Web3 marketing allows you as a marketer to focus on the best parts of marketing. And so what I mean by that is, with an emphasis on privacy, it means you know a lot less about your audience. And so you kind of have to rest on your laurels for who you believe you're targeting and how you think you can best reach them. And for me, that's, I think, refreshing, because often you get kind of knotted and caught up in the analytics. So there's pieces of that stand out to me when I look at, you know, my world now versus 5 years ago. But the other pieces too, I think that can be really challenging, are that you have many, many, many audiences that you have to talk to and hopefully, you know, talk to in a meaningful way. And that's not true for most startups, right? Like if you're just starting out with a smaller company, you don't typically have this big retail spotlight that most folks do in this crypto space, which means that community is really important and brand marketing is really important. And so you have to balance those things with more pragmatic objectives, like targeting engineers who need to come build. And I think when we look at the Web3 kind of space as a whole, that's very, very true. But particularly for Polkadot, you know, we're not going to have the luxury of just focusing on one audience. We need to make sure we're continuing to communicate to developers, because we do have really strong tech. We need to continue to communicate to retail, because Polkadot is a really strong value proposition as a platform and as a way to kind of bring this Web3 value into fruition. So there's a lot of pieces there that we have to kind of balance, and it can be really, really challenging with small teams. I mean, even if you combine all of the teams that are on this call as marketing resources, plus those who've been funded through OpenGov, we're still talking about a very small group of people, probably somewhere between like 50 or 100, if we're including all these decentralized teams, executing on what would be akin to a pretty big like corporate marketing plan. And so that can be really tough. But I think that can be refreshing for those of us who like to move quickly, be agile, and experiment a little bit. So I tend to really like Web3. I don't think I would ever go back to the Web2 world, but it does have some quirks that I think make it tough for new marketers in the space to overcome.
Thank you so much. But I think new people that come in, you're also, or like you can always give great expertise and help people to get onboarded in Polkadot. You mentioned it already, right? Like it's not one big team. The last year, most of you have heard that Parity has actually decentralized their marketing team. That's why we have several marketing agencies here on the call today. And this is really what Polkadot always pushes for, right? Decentralization. And the challenge is or downside of decentralization is, how can we actually stay effective and make all of these decentralized, crazy chaotic processes in the best way possible, and bring also effective and successful solutions to it. And the question here now that I have for Nate, because you're also very experienced launching parachains, work on ecosystem, now marketing. How do you overcome these challenges, right? Like managing decentralized marketing agencies, there are a lot of things like messaging, feedback from the community, and so on. What is your overall approach to guide through this landscape?
I think it's got to be as transparent as you can, while at the same time, you know, kind of putting some guardrails around how much input and when to get input. And so, you know, if you just continually open up for everyone's feedback 24/7 about messaging, something along those lines, everyone's going to have a lot of different opinions. And so you have to figure out the best way that you can set up meetings with specific audiences to try and get feedback. That, you know, we use a platform called Miro, where it's a Miro board. You can get a bunch of input, and then our team will take it back and kind of synthesize what are the common themes that we're seeing, what are we hearing, and then kind of try and distill that message down a little bit so you can come out with some key phrases or key themes from these exercises that then you can bring into the messaging that you're planning to roll out. But it really comes down to be transparent and, you know, be as responsive as possible. Ultimately, when you're helping grow an ecosystem, because I think obviously marketing and BD play into growing this ecosystem, it's just be responsive. Make sure people know who you are. Make sure that if they have questions, if they're looking for support, if they're looking to put something out, you're not making them wait. You're as responsive as possible. I think that we learned that on the Moonbeam side, or I did at least, that that can be key to success, is just being responsive and making sure that when people need support, they need help, you're giving it to them as quickly as possible. So it takes a lot of coffee. It's a lot of chaos. We have a team of 3 that are on the ecosystem side. One of our team members is kind of focused on the builders and developing teams to make sure that we have connections to all of them. We understand what are some of the announcements that are coming up. How do we get them into a content calendar? How do we help them market themselves effectively and give support as best we can? We have another individual, Eric, who's focused on more the community pieces, right? What's the community talking about? Do we understand kind of what the community needs to see out of us? Are we effectively communicating back and forth with them? And so we do our best to make sure that we're as active as possible in the community. And you'll see that'll get even more present as we're rolling out things like these programs, with the website going live, with new content coming out, that I think we'll be able to take a much more proactive approach, because we've spent a lot of time building, digesting, and now producing materials that teams can use. And so we want to be iterating on those. We want to be getting feedback. And I think you'll see even more and more moving forward, we'll be much more active in the community on these marketing topics.
Amazing. Okay, you have a plan how to navigate through it. Thank you for sharing this. And marketing also includes events, right? Back to Maddie, maybe. How are you guys navigating through this? Because Decentralized Studios is funded by the DF program, but there are we have other agencies also in Polkadot to throw hackathons, events, individuals, ambassadors to meetups. How do you coordinate through this? And what is your strategy?
Yeah, definitely. So first I'll kind of touch on what we've implemented so far. So specifically when it comes to what do people want to see at the flagship event? What kind of activities do they want? Who do they want to hear from? What content? We really do rely on the community's feedback for this, so it can feel like a community-driven event and it has all of the things that they're looking for there. So this is maybe we're conducting surveys and asking everyone, like, what are you thinking about? What do you want, etc. But then really, how do you implement all that information? Because not everyone has, like Nate said, like everyone has their own opinion and it's very vast. So how do you kind of like centralize that and make it productive and something effective that the majority of everyone's going to like? So for example, for Polkadot Decoded 2024, we did on-chain voting to see what location that the community wanted it to be. Another thing that we do is we have like a community advisory board. And so for each flagship event, we convene a board of community members, whether they're from parachains, Distractive, Parity Technologies, and so on, right? So that we can have a little bit of that representation of, they review all of the submissions of speakers. They tell us, okay, this is the best people to speak about and this is why, right? So we really rely on the community's expertise for these sort of things. However, with some recent feedback we have gotten post Decoded 2024, we are always looking for ways to revise this, right? So these are things that we've done, but maybe it's more or less the bare minimum. And of course, this is a learning experience. This was our first event, first Decoded post decentralization era. So we've really kind of learned that we need to do more with the community and engage them more. So kind of looking forward to coming up with more collaborative opportunities going forward.
Thank you very much. Yes, Decoded in Brussels was a great event. I was honored to moderate 2 stages there. It was great to see the Polkadot community coming together, and also a lot of new people, right? Because it was hosted during ECC. And I think this is also one very important approach. Web3 is about combining, cooperating, and Polkadot really makes an effort to get into other ecosystems and shows, hey guys, we cooperate within Web3. I think that often gets like perceived in a complete opposite way, which is not true. Just clarifying that Polkadot is also open to co-sponsor other events that are maybe hosted from other ecosystems. So yeah, just reach out to us if you want to get involved there. We mentioned it already, target audience, super important, connected to marketing, but also events. And Evan, with your expertise, and especially for social media, right? How would you describe the current target audience or personas? I guess there's several ones for Polkadot. And how do you actually, again, in this decentralized process effort, create specific content for these audiences?
Yeah. So as Katie mentioned, one of the difficulties with Web3 marketing is that we're trying to reach many different audiences. So we're trying to reach decision makers and enterprises, builders, entrepreneurs, CTOs, just general people that we call, crypto curious, that may be working in the tech industry, but they've heard about Bitcoin and Ethereum and they want to learn more. And then obviously crypto natives as well. So there's kind of a spectrum of people we're trying to reach. Specifically for social media, we try to use language and tone of voice that is appealing to what you could call like the center of the bell curve, like the people that we have the highest likelihood of reaching. And so we don't want to use highly technical jargon, but we also don't want it to be too simple that a technical person might think that it's not worth their time. We also try to reach, crypto natives by using things that are trending on crypto Twitter. So like if there's a specific meme that is trending within in the culture, you could call it, like we try to jump on that trend and use that meme. So it mostly is through how we're communicating, when we're communicating, and accounts that we're engaging with, and the type of content that we put out.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Definitely a challenge. Again, this is not a technical call here today. We talk about marketing. So for everyone that expects technical tutorials, we have much more content for this type of audience as well. And the target audience also is connected again to the messaging that Katie touched on, but I would like to guide a question here to Jörn, because you have quite a lot of experience also back then working for Parity to coordinate the community. Now you're like with Decentralized Studio, also in the decentralized landscape. How do you capture messaging? Like also maybe if you want to share from your past experience, what are these challenges and how do we get this actually done effectively?
Yeah, Nate just briefed it, just touched it briefly. There are so many channels on where we have the opportunity to gather feedback or ideas even prior and post events. It's actually quite helpful to have so many perspectives from community members. However, it can also be hard to find a common sense there, right? So it's the people that are speaking out that you hear, but there's so many others that don't share their opinions. So it's I think that's one area where we need to be better to listen to more people, and not just the typical voices that we all know. And of course, and that's probably one of the most, or the bigger challenges is there are a lot of constructive feedbacks, but there are also some less constructive, and we saw that like for Decoded, for instance. But actually, with Sub-Zero in March, we were one of the first projects to go live actually from the DF program pretty quickly after our decentralization, and because of that, probably we started a bit working in silos already, since there was like no landscape or no like infrastructure around it. So I think from our perspective, I think we should work more on like working together with other DF projects. I'm not only talking about like social media, but mainly about like messaging, for instance, and even media planning. I mean, we're part of 2 or 3 people here at Decentralized Studio, so any help would be really appreciated there.
Amazing. Yeah, good point. To coordinate and cooperate even more also within the Decentralized Future grantees. It is sometimes challenging to involve all of the feedback you said, Jörn. How is this for you, Diogo, at universities? The students can't complain that much, right? Because they're not in Polkadot yet. How do you approach or market Polkadot to university students? And maybe it's actually more exciting. What are the good points about it?
My main audience is students, computer science students, so technical people that are wanting to learn technology and programming and so on. And we approach people that want to learn the technologies from Polkadot ecosystem, like Rust programming language and also Polkadot SDK. There are much interested in Web3, but in a dispersed way. People want to know what it is and how to interact with this. And we direct this for the Polkadot SDK and the Rust part. So people like it.
Of course, because they're more in for the tech than like the branding and everything. Great, very excited that when your program kicks off to see how the students receive Polkadot and all the projects. And now Airlift on. So you guys really are the experts in like growing Web3 ecosystem. Maybe Chandra, over to you. How do you approach or how do you actually target Web3 audience or Web3 users? And maybe you can also share about some specific strategies that you use within Airlift.
Right. Some of this, the first important thing that we kind of take control of is obviously the onboarding. We aim to make sure that the onboarding is very streamlined for each and any of the projects that are trying to build it. Hence, we ask our projects to be aware of the fact that marketing is not a one-time activity, but it's over a series of activity that keeps on going, that keeps going on, and you can't achieve that in just one single iteration, right? So we keep them focusing on creating their own funnels. You can't keep it just as exactly as Web2, but in a similar way, to create their own sales funnel as to how they are driving their users directly into the funnels that are available as in the form of campaign. So for instance, let's say in the first funnel, they are actually getting to know about the team, the product, and so the second funnel is about knowing more in depth about the releases and each and everything. Third is to get them to actually use their product, and fourth and so other things, right? So that's one of the things that we internally ask users to kind of keep on developing their sales funnel, as to how they want to onboard and how do they want to increase their product adoption in the coming times. Secondly, what we majorly focus on is you can't retarget the same users again and again. So if there are a million of users available in the Polkadot, you don't want to retarget them again. So as part of this initiative, what we are doing is we being into this industry, we have partnered with multiple projects, multiple KOLs, multiple opinion leaders across multiple ecosystems, in order to make sure that we are introducing more and more about things that are being built on Airlift, about Polkadot, and letting them be a part of it and indirectly onboard them via these projects, campaigns into the Polkadot ecosystems. So there are a ton of things, but these are some of the most starting strategies that we ask users to kind of focus on before jumping on directly.
Amazing. Yeah. And you also, Rashid, mentioned like data analytics, right? Airlift is really focused on this. Data is super important in marketing. Maybe you can share a little bit how you suggest using data analytics to optimize marketing efforts.
Absolutely. So basically, analytics in general in the Web3 world is very difficult to get. If we think from a Web2 angle, right? Because we're accustomed to certain sort of funnels, certain types of tools, which gives us a certain set of KPIs, certain set of metrics, and then we try to adjust our Web3 marketing strategies in those KPIs and those metrics, and that's where things go wrong. So on Airlift itself, we provide very different kind of analytics, and that's what we feel might be helpful for projects in the Polkadot ecosystem as well, where it is helpful to divide basically any marketing strategy into four different categories, as Chandra also mentioned. Onboarding, adoption, engagement, and automation, right? Where how many people are you actually being able to onboard, which is the new users? How many of those are actually adopting to your to your DApp? and maybe they're coming to the campaign, they're clicking around, and then they're getting lost. So maybe they're doing, so let's say if there's a campaign which has some social tasks and it has some of on-chain actions, right? And then you give out an NFT as a reward. So where is the majority of your users getting lost? Are they getting lost in the social tasks? Are they getting lost in the on-chain tasks? Or are they getting lost in the rewards? There have been there have been cases where there are users who've done everything. They've also won certain rewards, but they got lost in ways how to claim those rewards. So these kind of analytics are very important, because that means there's something, maybe they did not have enough gas, maybe they could not figure out how to get gas. So these small nitty-gritty, they're very they're different from the Web2 world, but somehow or the other they're in the same domain. And those are those are some of the analytics or the KPIs or the metrics which I think we should track in our marketing
Activities.
activities. Yes.
Amazing. And Airlift is also a great platform. Already someone asked you what platforms are suggested, right, for user onboarding. Check it out. But let's talk a bit more. You touched on this, where get users lost, which is a big part of the funnel. Katie, maybe you can comment on this. What are the question here also, what platforms and marketing funnels do you suggest or do you internally use at Distractive? I mean, there's an overall marketing funnel, but do you adjust it specifically for Polkadot or Web3?
I mean, both Polkadot and Web3 would need some customization, right? I think we all can agree that X / let's be real, we still call it Twitter, is a really important platform. But there's other channels that we need to keep in mind depending on the audience that we're trying to reach. So for example, if we're trying to reach who Evan previously described as crypto curious, right? Folks who are enthusiastic about crypto, maybe even familiar with Polkadot, they're probably not going to be following the same types of people on Twitter as other folks who keep track of stuff day to day in the crypto space. And they also may not be on Twitter at all, right? They could be on Instagram, they could be on TikTok. And so we do need to start to diversify some of the channels, certainly from a social perspective, but also from a media perspective and digital marketing, right? And in other industries in the Web2 space, email is a really important platform. Not really the case here. And so we need to kind of look at the cocktail of tactics that we want to use for each audience and customize it to what we think will be most effective given the scenario and given what we're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, very good. Thank you for the input here. I hope Elisa Beta from the question via LinkedIn has helped already a little bit. And when we talk more about content, there's also some questions in the audience, how it differs from centralized campaigns or decentralized campaigns. Back to you, Evan, with your expertise on social media also. Maybe you can share a bit about the best organic ways to reach the Web3 audience through content creation. Some of your maybe secrets that you can share publicly.
I didn't see the specific question in the chat, but if I understand it, the question is which type of content performs best organically? Was that the question? Yeah, I think there's really 3 different types of content that drive the most engagement. That's either inspirational, educational. Here, let me put myself on the screen here. Educational or humorous. So like something that solicits some sort of emotional response, that content always performs well. So I think if you're working in Web3 and you're having trouble with your content strategy for, let's say, Twitter, really put yourself in the shoes of the audience. So many times we get requests from teams in the ecosystem that they put out like they have a minor update to their product and they want to shout it out to everyone, right? But sometimes you just have to do a self-evaluation and think like, is that really an update that is exciting to a large majority of people? Is it really going to get people super interested in your project, your project or product? So instead, like put yourself in the shoes of the audience and think about like what you would want to see. And like I said, it's either inspirational, educational, or humorous. Those 3 pillars of content tend to work well. And just remember that you're competing, like you're not usually competing against other projects on Twitter. You're competing against what's on the For You feed. And if you look what's on the For You feed, it's like memes, it's viral videos many times, it's like news events. things that are happening in the markets. Like just if you were on Twitter on Monday, you saw like the stock market meltdown. That was like the only thing on Twitter. So just remember, like you're competing with that type of content. So you need to put out stuff that really gets an emotional response.
Thank you for sharing the three approaches, or for the content type. Big learning here from Aaron. Thank you so much. If we put it back to the event side, because you already said put yourself into the shoes, we also need to understand, okay, we also have retail. We not only have core Web3 developers, we also want to approach the retailers. And here's a question already. If the conferences that we do in Polkadot actually help to onboard retail users to Web3 or to Polkadot. Jörn, can you comment on this?
Well, actually, I think that the existing flagship events don't deliver yet on that. So we have the Sub-Zero conference, which is for builders, basically, right? Sharing their knowledge, talking about new products and projects that they are leading, while Decoded is from a historical point of view more about like the venture side, the starting up side, talking about like business impact of projects. On this scale, I think we do not have yet something for retail users. And even in the bounty programs or other more regional events, I don't see too much of something that would already deliver on that. But actually, it's a good point. The question is, and probably that's also the same topic for social media, is that the right program for that audience?
Yeah, social media, online marketing, much different than when we do things in real life on the ground. But I think always helps to exchange, right? And see how we can maybe put some of the online activities offline and even engage again with growth hacking offline, right? It doesn't need to be everything online. The things that Airlift provide can also be done very cool, interactive at hackathons and events. And Rashid, back to you also, since we are talking about growth hacking here. What would you say are like maybe some challenges or blockers that currently affect the Web3 mainstream? And marketing is a big point, right? And please don't say it's user experience. I would like to hear other challenges.
No, definitely. So, there are a couple of things over here. I won't say user experience. Let's talk about other things which are more deeper than that. You know how I am from the I had my computers in the 90s, and at that time I remember connecting to the internet was a 2-hour process. You had to go to your neighborhood store, buy a compact disc which had a specific software. You installed the software like an AOL tool, then you put your ID password, then it takes 15 minutes to connect to the internet, right? I feel we're still somewhere around there. We're a little ahead, but we're somewhere around there in the Web3 space, right? Where the people who are on it understand that, okay, this is the future. But there were a lot of people, like I remember my dad used to say, like I used to, study on the internet during my free hours, not during the study time, because according to my parents, that was a waste of time, right? So I think we're somewhere around there at this point of time. And to get to the next level where where everyone is like today, if we don't have, like, if our broadband connection is down for 5 minutes, the whole house is on fire, right? So to reach to that level in the Web3 space, there are a lot of things which needs to play together: the hardware, the software, the people, the regulations. All of that needs to completely play together, and we will get there, but it's going to take its time. So if you're getting flustered that, okay, why don't we have mass adoption, why we want it now, it will take time, but we're all building together, we're all reaching there. And also the education is a big factor. And talking about events, talking about rewards, those are small enhancers, those are those are small tools which can get us there. But we're reaching there slowly, I would like to say.
Let's give it some more time. We are very patient in Web3, and do our best 24/7 to grow. Yogo, back to you, the university audience. I find very interesting, super important target audience for us. Maybe you can explain again how. No, we touched on this already, but what is your vision for Polkadot at universities? And maybe you can share already some of the perception of the Polkadot brand at universities or the students that you talk to.
Currently, I'm acting in Polkadot at universities in the university that I teach. So I'm teaching for some students and getting feedback from them, like a pilot project for that. They are liking. People have some difficulty in the beginning to learn what is Web3 and what is Polkadot and what Polkadot can enable the programmers to do to build blockchains using Substrate, for example. But then after they go more smoothly with this knowledge. And the plan for this project, we are starting with one university, but we plan to expand for more universities and maybe do a bounty with that. So we have plans to expand this for more places.
Perfect. Thank you for joining. Definitely, again, students are much more motivated to get into the ecosystem. Sorry, I just got a message here on Restream. Something went wrong. Are you still can hear me, guys? Are we still live? Okay, cool. User target, user audience, user retention, or how do we keep user retained, specifically in Polkadot, and then also the wider Web3 audience. A question to Nate. First of all, how do you guys approach this at Distractive? How can we keep user retain in Polkadot, but also then a question to Airlift afterwards, how you guys manage this actually in the wider Web3 audience?
Yeah, I mean, I think it comes down to, I used to talk about when I was really focused on the BD days, it was each ecosystem is its own like carnival, and you got to have the best rides for people to be able to stay active and keep doing things in the ecosystem. And so, my focus is really making sure that the ecosystem is highlighted. The teams who are building some really innovative and cool products and things that are fun to use are getting as much highlight as possible. You'll see when the new website goes live, there's a big focus on community. And so it's not necessarily just focusing on parachains, it's applications. You've got to give folks something to do when they come into Polkadot. And so making sure that the actual end applications where folks can get engaged and find things to do, whether it's NFTs or games or DeFi, you've got to be able to highlight them and make it easy for folks to find them. And so making sure that, Polkadot has the best carnival out there is something that, between Distractive, the folks here, as well as the BD teams, that's going to be a big focus, is making sure that we've got the attractions to not only bring people in, but hopefully get them to stay long term and engage with the community as best as possible.
Thank you, Nate. And now from Rashid or Chandru, if you want to comment, how do you approach this? Because you also have experience with other ecosystems besides Polkadot. Rashid? Yeah.
Right. So basically, I think there are two major things that goes in any ecosystem. I agree to Nate's concept of it being a carnival, and taking the same analogy ahead. In a carnival, whenever there are these small games happening where you're throwing discs, you're shooting balloons. There's always an effort to reward ratio, right? Where X amount of reward gets you Y amount of X amount of effort gets you Y amount of reward. Now, I think for long-term engagement, that ratio is very important. If we try to play around with that too much, right? If we're giving out a lot of reward for less effort, then we get a lot of bad actors in the system. And similarly, if we're giving out very very less reward for a lot of effort, then a lot of good actors go away. So we need to make sure that for example, from this program, from the grants program, and that holds true for any ecosystem, that ratio needs to be maintained very well. Number one. And number two is obviously what we said, that regarding to gamification, it's very important that again, that's something which Nate also said, that there needs to be something to do. But when we're saying there needs to be something to do, there needs to be an iterative things which people can do, starting from someone who's at a very newbie level to someone who's an expert. So that needs to be the whole 360 degree sort of an approach needs to be taken, and that sort of fosters long-term engagement. Chandra, if I have missed anything, please you can take it forward.
No, I
Chandra,
think
feel free to add.
yeah, that's pretty much covered. But the fact is that I'm like the lifespan of people staying in the community is very short when it comes to Web3, right? So that always has to be accounted for whenever we are trying to retain Web3 users. So like out of the 100%, what we normally try and do is we try to kind of keep it up until like 10%, let's say on a monthly basis or on a quarterly basis, in order to ensure that more and more people are coming in. One of the things that I understand, you know, which a lot of teams should focus on is having having a better community manager who is gonna actually be someone who's positioning the entire vision of your product in front of the customers. You don't expect your tech team to go ahead and talk to your users, right? So having that entire vision on how we are positioning them, how we are letting our entire ideas put in front of the user so that they are finding it interesting or emotional, as it was mentioned earlier. So these are like few of the more things that can actually help in trying to strategize the entire retention rates here on a day-to-day basis.
Perfect. Thank you so much for covering this. I would like to add another community question here. I think Akshay is asking, how do marketing campaigns being decentralized or centralized impact the audience or the content consumer? I think that's a great question for Katie.
This is actually just an excellent question overall. And I think this is one of the places that we can see the most improvement, hopefully, in the next 6 months in particular. So a couple of the things that I see. So I mentioned earlier, you want to customize your channels for your audience, right? And so what we're seeing happening now with the approaches that we've been using for OpenGov and Treasury is there's sort of these like blanket proposals for specific publications or specific channels. And that's not always going to fit with what you're trying to do in terms of the content you're trying to promote or the audience that you're trying to reach. And so what that can result in from the audience's perspective is sometimes there's a mismatch. Sometimes you're trying to communicate something that is broadly kind of retail focused to an audience that's pretty crypto savvy, and that can seem tone deaf if we don't do it right. And so what we are hoping to do moving forward as Distractive is really two things. One, to be a resource for the community. So for example, if there's ads that are going to be on specific platforms, we're creating an asset repository. So those can be copied and shared with teams that are contributing to Polkadot as marketers. And just generally helping create some of these ad units as well as landing pages, right? Because if you click on something and you land on a random website with no context for what you just clicked, that results in a bad experience. But the second thing is we're hoping we can lead by example. So we've just started our own campaigns internally. And the way that we're approaching that is instead of saying, hey, we want to advertise on this publication, can you approve that? We're instead saying, hey, here's our objective. Here's the campaigns that we're attempting to launch. And here's roughly the channels that we're planning to use in order to impact that campaign. We're doing it that way because that's how you create effective marketing campaigns. But it does take a while to be able to show enough data for each of these campaigns that gives the community some context. So we've just started launching some of these media campaigns in the last month or two. And as we progress through the rest of the year, we do plan to continue to share more information with the community so they can see hopefully a difference, right? Hopefully, by targeting things like this decentralization format to people who care about decentralization. So it's probably going to be more the crypto native group. Hopefully we can continue to show that like targeted, smart, efficient advertising is a really valuable approach to this kind of promotion.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Katie. Akshay, hope this helped you. And Katie's also active and I think reachable on LinkedIn if there are any follow-up questions. I think all of the speakers here today. Officially, this live stream will end now, but I think we have 5 more minutes to do some cool. Soraya is leaving us. Thank you so much for joining. The other speakers will stay with us for 5 more minutes. We have some cool ping pong questions that I just wanted to ask, and everyone can just comment on this very shortly. And maybe we start here with Aaron asking about how do you actually stay up to date on the latest marketing trends? Maybe a platform or something.
Yeah, for me, it's podcasts. I listen to like almost 2 or 3 podcast episodes a day, like early in the morning and into the evening, even when I'm falling asleep. Some good ones I could recommend are Seth Godin, Tim Ferriss, HubSpot has a really good marketing podcast, e-commerce masters, Shopify. So if you just go into Spotify and search for e-commerce or marketing or digital marketing, SEO, like any of those sort of things, you'll find some really good podcasts. And in 30 minutes, you can learn a whole new thing. So
amazing. Maybe you want to add or add some links here down of the
Sure.
podcast you just mentioned. Nate? Oh, almost falling asleep. Question is, how do you stay up to date with marketing trends? Come on.
I mean, so I'm more of the BD person. Katie's more of a marketer, but I mean, ultimately, I look at our team to make sure that, you know, we've got events, we've got marcoms, we've got design and branding. I look to our teams to be the experts when it comes to marketing. I'm just helping keeping the wheels on the bus and making sure that we're engaged as best we can with the ecosystem.
Okay, so I hand over the question to Katie if you have some recommendations.
Yeah, I actually kind of force myself to look outside of Web3. So for me, if I want to remind myself to think bigger, be more bold, I tend to look at things like Ad Age and look at what really big brands with many more resources are able to accomplish. And then hopefully try and take the inspiration from that and find a way to bring that into the Web2 space, because that's where I see really, truly best in class brands. And that's where I think like I kind of reset my expectations. And, you know, we have to remind ourselves to not get bogged down in tactics. So I think that's the piece that is for me the big reset button.
Anyone else wants to comment? Otherwise, I have the next question.
Zoe, can I answer a community question that just popped up? Because I think this is something that a lot of people are wondering about. What are your thoughts on AI content? So I think it's
this would
totally
be the next question, but go ahead.
Okay. Oh, sorry. I think it's totally acceptable to use, like, say, Claude or ChatGPT as like a sort of co-pilot where you can bounce ideas and get inspiration from, but you should never, ever, ever use ChatGPT or any of those language models to just create content. And it is so glaringly obvious when you go onto Twitter or read a blog or a newsletter to see content that's written by AI. There's special telltale things, like they use the same sort of formatting and they use things like exciting news. They use that over and over again. And it just, not only does it not read well and it's not really compelling, but it also just makes it seem like whoever's doing this content marketing is not putting in a lot of effort, and it just makes you not trust or believe in this brand. So just to answer that community question real quick, like, go ahead and use it as a sort of co-pilot, but never ever just expect it to do all the work for you. Sorry to interrupt.
No, this is great. And Alyssa, Veta, thank you for your great questions. You're very active here in the chat. The other question was how we integrate these technologies also going forward, but I think we covered this today. AI and marketing, very important. Let's talk quick insights about tools. We talk about platforms and education. Rashid and Chandra, what are your favorite marketing tools besides Airlift?
Right. So you know, it's just that, you know, we like our calendars are always filled up, right? So one of the things that we normally do is, like, whenever we talk to each people, they all have their own set of needs, their own set of requirements. So, you know, that helps us, you know, develop a lot of marketing strategies that we would like, you know, that we always share those from the people. But yeah, I mean, like, I personally join a lot of spaces going around in order to ensure, you know, like I'm learning each and everything that's going on at this point of time. You know, like, there is this meme, this meme spaces that happens every Friday with the Doge chain, and, you know, there are some specific events that I join each and every week, and that's like my only source of inspiration as to what I want to implement next in the upcoming projects.
Who wants to
Right.
add to
Adding to that,
tools? Yeah.
regarding a couple of tools, as Chandra said, social media as it is, there's so much happening with Discord, Telegram, Twitter, all of these. There are some tools like Buffer and Hootsuite which help you, organize your basic social marketing efforts. These are all, I would say, these are like Web2 tools which we can obviously use in the Web3 space as well. And then obviously a lot of these new analytics tools which are coming up, which give you some on-chain data to understand what is happening where, what's doing well. And yeah, I think those are, I usually stick with the Web2 tools for Web3 marketing. So other than that, your simple, like your SendGrids and your SEMrush and your Substack Medium, all of these conventional tools.
The challenge is just that Web3 people use also different communication channels, right? Like we need integration with Discord and Telegram and so on, and HubSpot, often enough are not up to date on this.
Exactly.
Okay, guys, thank you so much. We are 5 minutes over here. I would like to not take too much time of the speakers, but this was a very great first session of the Decentralized Mic and the Marketing Spotlight. Last question for everyone to say goodbye. Where can we see you next at which cool event in Web3? Björn.
Hopefully, what is that? I would say Web3 Summit, yeah?
Yes, me too. And I think Maddie is there too. Web3 Summit, 19th and 21st of August in Berlin. Nate and Katie, where can we see you at which event?
We'll be there.
You'll be there. Amazing. Evan?
I will be at CoinFest Asia, August 22nd and 23rd. It's Southeast Asia's largest Web3 festival. We have a lot of teams from around the Polkadot ecosystem in attendance, as well as some VCs. We're having a hackathon. There'll be a VC investor dinner. There's a government subsidized Bali blockchain summit also happening early that week. So a lot of stuff going on, and Polkadot is the title sponsor. So if anyone is watching this in the Southeast Asia region, I hope you can make it over and meet some of the Polkadot teams. And
meet you in person. That would be great. And Chandra and Rashid, where can we meet you next in person?
I think we'll probably be there for Token 2049 in Singapore. And I think the other events would come later along the year. We have our heads down building, so not doing a lot of events in the later half of the year.
Also, always the balance, very important between the marketing expenses and the heads down tech integration, how we get actually our product onto the market. Amazing. Thank you so much, everyone. Again, this was the premiere of the Decentralized Mic, the new...
We forgot Diogo. Where's he?
Diogo, sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Diogo, where can we meet you? Or besides on universities?
Yeah, I'm not planning for now for Web3 events. We had 2 weeks ago the main event here in Brazil from Blockchain Rio. I was there, but as a professor, you can find me in academic events. So we want to see more Polkadot on academic events as well.
And if you are a student here or working with universities and would like to also push the Polkadot brand, reach out to Diogo, and I think he can really help you to create great activities, courses, and events around universities for Polkadot. Great. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining on LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube. This session was recorded, so you can always rewatch this. We covered a lot, not all of it, unfortunately, but a lot of topics about Web3 marketing for Polkadot, but also the broader Web3 audience. And I think there were a lot of takeaways about how to focus on target audience, that, of course, decentralized campaigns are much different to create and follow up and create effectively than centralized campaigns. And again, all of the speakers and experts that you see here today can be reached out to on LinkedIn or Twitter, and are always happy to help. I hope I see all of you very soon again, latest at Web3 Summit in Singapore or online for the next Decentralized Mic session.